Why are they half up?
Evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the November 9th, 2021 Old Bridge Township Council meeting. I'd like to call it to order, please. Please stand for a pledge of allegiance, and please remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As customary in this chamber, we stand for a moment of silence to remember those who are protecting our freedoms, both here and abroad, for our first responders, for those who have made the ultimate sacrifice, and this evening to remember all our veterans. A moment of silence, please. Our prayer, Mr. Pescetti.
Dear Lord, bless thy servants in the ministry of public affairs who serve thee in this chamber. Give us quiet minds and hearts that we may hear your voice. Help us to know when to speak, when to be silent. Give us strength to oppose the wrong and uphold the right. And grant that we have a good conscience and soul at peace with thee and with one another. Amen.
Amen. Everyone, please be seated. Thank you.
This meeting is being held in conformance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice has been given to the newspaper, and notice of the meeting has been posted in public places. For our roll call, Ms. Brown? Absent. Mr. De Palma? Here. Dr. Greenberg-Belli?
Here.
Mr. Merwin? Is absent. Mr. Murphy? Approaching dais is here. Mr. Pescetti?
Here.
Mr. Rizzoli? Is absent. Ms. Walker?
Here.
President Sohor?
Here.
We have 6 present.
Good evening, everyone. First will be our approval of minutes of previous meeting, combined meeting, February 9th, 2021.
Move it.
Second.
Okay, moved by Councilwoman Walker, second by Councilman De Palma.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg-Belli? Yes. Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy? Here. Yes. Thank you. Mr. Pescetti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli is absent. Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohor?
Yes.
We have 6 ayes.
Next will be our bill list. Councilwoman Walker.
Accounts payable, $2,910,840.72. Payroll, October 29, 2021, $999,773.95. October 29, 2021, payroll overtime, $36,396.18, for a total of $3,947,010.85.
Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Okay, Mr. Shaw, may we have an update on the overtime, please?
Thank you, Council President. As Councilwoman Walker indicated, the total overtime for this pay period was $36,396.18. There was no real uptick in any other department. For the police sworn officers, total overtime was $26,478.45. Deduct grants, 2,673.99. Deduct ETO, 7,171.94. The net overtime was $16,632.52, representing 259.5 man and women hours. No special event, no injured on duty or light duty. There were 2 officers quarantined during this pay period. That concludes my report, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Shah.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli? Yes. Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy? Yes. Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli is absent. Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohor?
Yes.
We have 6 ayes.
Thank you, Mrs. Walker. Next will be H1, ordinances for second reading, ordinance amending the code of the Township of Old Bridge, specifically Article 3, various goods and services, Section 160-11. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Okay, moved by Councilman Walker, Councilwoman Walker, second by Councilman Murphy. Now I'll ask if there's any questions from the council on my right. Anyone on my left? Now we'll open it to the public. We're open it to the public? Yeah, no one's here, so I'll close it to the public. I'm so used to the online. Right, I'm waiting for the phone to ring.
All right, so roll call for ordinance chapter 16011 is Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy? Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli is absent. Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohor?
Yes.
We have 6 ayes.
Thanks, I have to get used to this in person again. Okay, next is H2, ordinance accepting roadways within the commons at Old Bridge, AKA Effort Estates Development. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Second?
Okay, moved by Mr. De Palma, second by Mrs. Walker, or Dr. Greenberg Belli. Okay, anyone have any questions, council? No? Anyone from the public wish to come up and be heard about this ordinance? Okay, I'll close the public portion.
Roll call, Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy? Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli is absent. Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohor?
Yes,
That's 6 ayes.
thank you very much. Next will be our consent agenda, and I will ask for a motion and second, and then bring it forward for separations from council.
Move it.
Second?
Okay, moved by Councilwoman Walker, second by Councilman Piscitty.
Ms. Brown is absent for separations. Mr. De Palma?
Just C6.
C6. Okay. Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy? No, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Piscitty?
No separations, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rizzoli is absent. Ms. Walker?
No, thank you.
And President Sohor?
Yes, I'd like to separate C1.
Roll call on the remainder. Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli? Yes. Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy? Mr. Murphy? Thank you. Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli is absent. Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohor?
Yes.
We have 6 ayes.
Okay, next will be C1. I just brought this up as information for people living in the Arbors. They will be starting Phase 1 and Phase 2 of Phillips Drive improvements, and this is through a grant that we received. We're very happy to say that this is maybe the 5th or 6th year that we've been able to do these larger roads with grants. So I'd like to thank the engineering department, all their hard work in getting us grants to do these projects. And for the people in the Arbors, I know they've been waiting, and I think they're really going to be very pleased with all the improvements that they're going to see. So I'd like to make a motion,
Second.
and second by Mr. De Palma.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy? Yes. Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli is absent. Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohor?
Yes.
We have 6 ayes.
Okay, next will be C6, Mr. De Palma.
Yep, this is just separating it as I have the last couple meetings for some of our fully disabled veterans that can get the tax refund. Just again, just to make sure that folks understand and know that should you fall into these categories, you do have the ability to have your taxes refunded to you. And it's no questions, I'll move it.
Second.
Move it.
Okay, moved by Mr. De Palma, second by myself.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy? Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli is absent. Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohor?
Yes.
We have 6 ayes.
Okay, we do have no ordinances for first reading this evening. I will start with report of the Township Clerk.
I do not have a report tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. The Township Attorney, a report? Okay, thank you. And Administrative report, Mr. Shah.
Thank you, Council President. The administrative report for November 9th, 2021. Item 1, the Old Bridge, the Court Drive, the Old Bridge Food Bank, and the Department of Public Works hosted its first Share the Warmth Coat Drive on Saturday, November 6th. We collected 389 coats and 8 full bags of hats, scarves, and gloves. We thank our many residents for their generous donation. And this was our first coat drive, and I want to thank Anna and Casey for arranging that, and very successful drive. And I'm sure this is going to be our repeat operation annually. Item number 2, fall leaf pickup. Fall leaf pickup has begun in all wards. Please have your paper leaf bags placed at the curb the night before you schedule your scheduled week, and keep them outside, rain or shine. Residents can visit oldbridge.com/recycling for full schedule. Item number 3, American Recycles Day. On Monday, November 15th, the township will collect rechargeable batteries for American Recycle Days. This event is for rechargeable batteries only, not standard household batteries. Come to the Township Recycling Center between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. and drive right through. Visit oldbridge.com for more details. Item number 4, Cottrell Farm Urban Aid Park Development Grant. The Garden State Preservation Trust approved the Urban Aid Park grants for park development that will provide open space and recreation opportunities. Old Bridge Township has been notified that $1.2 million has been approved for the Cottrell Farm Park Development Project. The additional fund will be used towards Phase 3 to Phase 5. Item number 5, Throckmorton Lane resurfacing Phase 1. The Township of Old Bridge has been selected to receive $425,270 in funding from New Jersey Department of Transportation fiscal year 2022 Municipal Aid Program for Throckmorton Lane resurfacing Phase 1 project. The first phase of project encompasses resurfacing approximately 0.75 miles of roadway located between New Jersey State Highway Route 9 and Hastings Road. In general, the work includes milling, resurfacing, pavement striping, and marking, replacement of inlet grates and headpieces, and construction of ADA compliance curb ramps. Old Bridge Township anticipate completing the remaining length of Throckmorton Lane Phase 2, approximately 0.59 miles in 2023. Item number 6, Phillips Drive Phase 1 and Phase 2 improvements. This is was earlier talked about by Council President. On October 28, 2021, bids were received, open and read in public for the Phillips Drive Phase 1 and 2 improvement contract number 2021-48B. Bids from 12 contractors were received, with Alancha Construction Corporation being the lowest bidder. Phase 1 and 2 will include resurfacing of Phillips Drive from dwelling number 16 to Cottrell Road. In general, the work includes milling, resurfacing, pavement striping and markings, replacement of inlet grates and headpieces, and construction of ADA compliance curb ramps. Construction is scheduled for spring of 2022. Item number 7, fourth quarter tax payment. Township Division of Tax Collection will be open Monday through Friday between hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. during the fourth quarter tax collection period. Tomorrow, November 10th, the tax office will have extended hours between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. Tomorrow is the last day to pay. This is the last day to pay taxes without interest and penalties. Payment received after this date will accrue interest back to the statutory due date of November 1st. For additional information, residents should contact Division of Tax Collection at 732-721-5600, extension 2999. Item number 8, the Old Bridge John Piccolo Ice Arena will be open to the public for weekend sessions starting on Friday, November 12th. Item number 9, Old Bridge Police Department. The Old Bridge Police Department has begun the process to equip all officers with Utility Inc.'s body-worn camera technology. This represents the start of the first permanent body-worn camera program for Old Bridge Police. The program is being funded by the Township along with the state grant of $305,000. The body camera program being mandated by the State of New Jersey State Attorney General's Office is coordinated efforts to better protect and serve our community while also increasing trust and transparency. The cameras are expected to be operational by mid-December. That concludes my report, Council President.
Council President, if I may, can I add I'd like to add
Yes,
an item,
Mayor, go
please?
right ahead.
I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize this Thursday as being Veterans Day, and to thank all our township residents who have served in the armed forces, but a special thank you to the many township employees who serve their country and now serving their community. And I encourage all Old Bridge residents to say thank you. Michael, I say thank you. We have our vet right here, our IT man. So thank you for all you've done, and thank you for what you continue to do for your community. So please thank a vet on Thursday. And it shouldn't be only on Veterans Day. It should be every day. We should
All
thank
the
you.
time.
So thank you. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. Is anyone any questions or comments? Mr. Pescetti?
Yeah, on the Throckmorton Lane resurfacing, how did that get selected?
Well, from our road plan, the engineering department picks the large road, that large length of roads and will apply to the state. For example, we just got the Phillips Drive completed, now it's Throckmorton, and I believe we have done other roads, Cottrell, right? No, not Cottrell was done by county. Huh? Perry Road. Ticetown Road. So when there's a large road in the town where there's a through traffic, state does consider those roads for the grant annual award of the grants. I believe that's
criteria that must be met. And one of them, I believe, Nicole's, that needs to come from a state highway. So it needs to be continuous to their infrastructure. And that's one of the reasons why we get some of these larger roads done.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's a great tool. Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else on my right for a comment? On my left? Mr. DePalma?
Mr. Shaw, just, I know that we're doing the white goods pickup over the next week or two. Can you just give a little information on that? The white goods, so like the appliances and stuff like that, like just so folks could understand what can and what can't be.
Yeah, Casey, can you?
I'm going to ask
please?
Casey to go over, and we're coming back next meeting in December to also explain the snow removal process.
Good evening. Good evening.
Hello, Council. That's a great question. What we have is a bi-weekly white goods pickup. So any resident that has an appliance or even a lawnmower, if they remove the gasoline and oil from it, treadmill, basketball hoop, anything like that, they can call the Public Works Department, 732-721-5600, extension 6140, and schedule with that. And we also do a brush pickup. That actually came to an end last week, but that'll be picking up again once the holiday Christmas trees and everything are available.
All the leaves and
Yeah,
you're on the go all the time.
We're hot to trot on the leaves right now, so. Any other questions?
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope everyone takes advantage of that if they need it. Seriously. Thank you, Mr. De Palma, for bringing it up. Anyone else for a question for Mr. Shaw or a comment? Okay, then I'll ask for a motion.
Move it.
Okay. Moved by Mr. Pasquetti, second by Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli? Yes. Mr. Merwin? It's accepting the words. I'm going to say absenteeist. Mr. Murphy? Yes. Mr. Pasquetti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli is absent. Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohor?
Yes.
We have 6 ayes.
Okay, next will be public comment on any subject matter for a maximum period of 3 minutes. If there's anyone in the public would like to be heard, come forward, please. Good evening, sir.
How we doing? My name's Oh, I gotta sit down? That's not a problem. Okay. My name is Arthur Berkey. I reside here in Old Bridge, and I kind of got elected to be a spokesman for a crew of mine that we all play pickleball over here in the municipal courts. And it's a little late in the year now, but they had lessons scheduled, okay? And they had them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Can you just, to speak into
Thursday, Friday. And what it was, when we wanted to play pickleball in the morning, and there's like 25 to 30 of us in this crew, okay? And if we wanted to play pickleball in those days, we had to go someplace else because they had lessons. And we don't think it's fair to us. I mean, we were all there when they first opened the pickleball courts, and we love it. And I don't know if you know, but it's a big up-and-coming sport in America. And it's forced us to go to Jamesburg, Tinton Falls, East Brunswick, because they have the courts from 9 in the morning till 12, and then they have the courts from 5:30 to 8 o'clock, and that's usually the times we play. And we're not looking for exclusive use, but we just think a fairer, something that would be more fair would be okay. Second question is, inquiry, I guess, is I understand there's supposed to be some pickleball courts built in Menino Park. And I was just wondering what the progress is on that. Because I could say with all these people that I hang out with, and I've made a bunch of good friends over here and this and that. And there's nights we go out after we play and we go to local businesses, we eat dinner, we go get pizza and stuff like that. It's good for the community. And if you go to any of these townships that I mentioned and look at their pickleball courts, they have beautiful pickleball courts. And, they got 40, 50 people there every night. And if a few of them people go out afterwards, visit a local business, it's good for the community. It's good for, the economy. And I was just wondering what's going on with these other courts because, listen, I don't want to get into any engineering or budgeting or this and that, but the pickleball courts that are there right now, the tennis court, on one tennis court, you could probably fit 4 pickleball courts. And you have the posts there already, the old posts from the tennis courts. It's something you could look into. Maybe they can have someone look at one of the courts over in Tinton Falls or East, I don't know about East Brunswick, but Jamesburg has beautiful courts. It's 6 courts, and it basically, I'm pretty sure you could fit 4 courts on one tennis court over there, and then put a fence up. I understand there's something to do with the school and the high school, but I just want to say, if you build them, I guarantee people will come and play pickleball. And like I said, sometimes people go out, sometimes we'll go out, we'll have a designated driver, and we'll go to a restaurant, have a few cocktails, maybe something to eat, and it's always locally. So I'm just wondering what's going on with the Menino.
Mr. Mercuro, can you please come up?
Can I sit down now, or do I got to stay here?
Well, you want to hear
That's
it.
all right, I'll stay here.
I'll answer all three questions
Good evening.
kind of in succession. Thank you, guys. The first one, fortunately and unfortunately, when it comes to pickleball, we are punished by our own success. With that, it grew very, very fast, not just on the pickup crews, but when we started offering lessons to our general population, our Camp Robin population, and our senior population, obviously, those sold out. If they didn't sell out, then we wouldn't be offering those programs. When it comes to the Menino Park project, that was approved for 2 courts over there. The last correspondence I had with Shore Top Construction, I emailed them on October 28th before I went away. They got back to me on November 2nd saying due to supply chain, they're still waiting on materials. So as soon as, but that's for 2 courts at Menino that were approved in last year's capital budget.
Okay, are those courts going to be fenced in?
Yes, 100%.
Is it going to be, because I'm going to be honest, my opinion is it's not going to be enough 2 courts.
It's not.
All right? And,
I agree.
And I think the easiest and probably the most economical, frugal, whatever you want to call, solution was, I understand the high school uses the tennis courts, but 1 court, like I said, 1 court, 1 tennis court, you could put 4 courts on that. And, sometimes a group of people will come, all right, like this past Saturday, there's people there, and they come with 8 people and they all want to play. And then there's more people that come in. They have to put up a sign like you can play in.
Well, with all respect, we have the public comment portion, and we can't do a Q&A,
Okay.
for the whole
All right.
thing.
I'm good. I'm
But
good.
maybe they could meet with Mr. Mercuro, and you guys could meet with him and have a good discussion about this, give your opinion. And this way, this is something that's growing, like you said, and it's a very positive thing. And I think it's something that we, definitely could increase and use. So maybe you guys could have a meeting with Matt where you could sit down and talk about it. And this way, you can have a nice conversation, and maybe there's some ways to look forward for the next year as to, how important it's grown.
Well, and the biggest concern was the lessons, because the lessons, I have nothing against it, but
Yeah.
they have to share. I mean, they can't have all
Well,
the prime
like
time.
I said,
You know what I'm saying?
Unfortunately, tonight is like the public
Okay.
3 minutes, but this, obviously, you've come forward and you've brought some good initiatives and ideas, and I think it's good to share with us so that we can come up with you, the guys that have been playing. So thank you so much. And like I said, let's set up a meeting with Matt, and hopefully you can get some answers,
Okay.
get some good suggestions. Yeah.
The main thing is if we can get those new courts built.
Matt, I just have a question for you. I thought it was settled about the high school using just 4 of the tennis courts. The other side, the 2 tennis courts and pickleball courts would be open to the public, because
Go ahead, finish.
so somebody came up to me about 3 weeks ago, and they told me, I wasn't with this group, they just came up to me and told them the high school team was there, and told them due to COVID, they weren't allowed to play there. And I thought that was straightened out.
I thought that was straightened out.
This
when
just
we were-
happened
when
3
we were
weeks ago.
Dealing with practices, but I will reach out to the AD and speak about what their policy is and which courts they are using.
And maybe speak about them fixing their own tennis courts
I
up.
will repeat that again.
Okay.
That's a good thought, too. Okay, thank you very much, Matt. Someone else wish to come up from the public and be heard? Good evening.
Hi,
Hello.
everybody. My name is Sylvia Herbert, and of course, I'm a resident here in Old Bridge. And primarily, I've never done this before, and being here, I thought I'd come and talk. And first of all, say thank you to the township and everyone for all the opportunities that you offer, whether it's sports or otherwise. I recently joined the senior members, and I get to do pickleball also with them and many other activities. It's really fantastic, all that you offer to our youth and our seniors and the adults. And as a pickleball player, I don't want to ride to Jamesburg when I live 4 minutes away from the tennis courts. I mean, Old Bridge courts, as we call it. So whatever you could do for us, I totally appreciate it. Thank you for listening.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to be heard this evening on anything? Seeing no hands, then I will close the public portion. Okay, and next we'll go to council member comments.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. Palmer, do you have any comments tonight?
Yes. Just a couple things. I'll start off as I started off last time. Folks, please slow down. Again, more and more accidents in town. As Acting Chief Mandel smiles at me as I say this, please be careful. As I said last meeting, an extra 2 minutes is not worth a life. It's not worth your life, a friend's life, a family member's life. So please slow down. Also, as we're coming up on the holiday season, our Chamber of Commerce is running a Toys for Tots. It started on Monday, the 8th. It runs through December 17th. Drop-offs are all throughout town. You could find them on their website. You could find out where those are, also on their social media platforms. Last year, they collected over 700 toys. This year, their goal is 2,000. So let's help them reach that goal this year. It's a great thing to do, bringing joy to kids' lives, bringing joy to folks that necessarily can't get all those fine things during the holiday season. Also, this past weekend was the last race of the Healthy Kids Running Series that was done at Lombardi Field. Mayor Henry and I were down there handing out medals to the kids as well as trophies to some of the grade winners. It was a great thing. I want to thank Mrs. Alberti for organizing it and having a discussion with her along with the mayor. Definitely looking to bring that more prevalent into the township. I think it was kind of done quickly this year for the fall, but she is looking to do a spring session. So hopefully we get that. Once we know more information about that, we'll start announcing that. And finally, Veterans Day. There's no amount of thanks that any of us can give a veteran. We have some here, some that work for the township, some that are in the audience, family members. When you see those veterans, thank them. Our freedom, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. The right for us to sit up here and have these conversations, to disagree with each other, is because of those veterans. So when you see them, make sure you thank them. They are not necessarily looked upon by everybody favorably sometimes. And that's the worst thing possible. We need to look at those folks as favorably as we can. Those are our grandparents, our fathers, our mothers, our grandmothers, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, whatever that might be. You see a veteran, stop them and thank them. Right? They are some of the most proud people that I've ever met. I have some in my family. You see these folks that are former Marines, former Navy. They constantly are walking around with that pride on their head. They're always wearing the battleship that they were on. The engagement that they were in. When you see those folks, stop them and thank them. That's all.
Thank you, Dr. Greenberg-Belli.
Yes, first of all, thanks the members from the community for coming up and telling us about your situation with the pickleballs. Courts, I respect that very much because it is a great sport. It's a very popular sport. It keeps our elder community active. And like you said, you've made many friends there, strong bonds. And it is sad that they have to leave town to go to another place, especially when our schools have tennis courts. And I don't think they're being utilized. I don't think by the schools they're being maintained properly. And perhaps if the schools took care of their courts, that would shift away from the municipal courts, and then the municipal courts could be used for our taxpayers and our residents and citizens of this town to use. And I think it's a shame that if you go to other towns that are, much smaller and they have a better, pickleball fields than us, I think that is an indication that we have to do better. Then I would like to also talk about something that has come to me with many complaints. And one is I wanted to talk about something that people may not realize. And I hope, I want to say, does the taxpayer realize that the state of New Jersey has spent over $100 million $100 million on early voting. Is this acceptable to you? Is this acceptable to you? The $100 million, which will be, if this continues, repeated every year, I don't care whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or Independent, $100 million could have been used, better used, for perhaps an adult program for those with special needs. Perhaps that $100 million can go into poor socioeconomic communities to give those children more opportunities to go to the recreation programs, keeping them safe, and also perhaps career training programs that would help really their entire future. $100 million for early voting is absurd. For example, in Old Bridge, there were less than 12 voters per hour. Is that acceptable to everyone here to spend that kind of money? Is that acceptable when our veterans, it's Veterans Day coming up, came to defend our freedoms and give us the right to vote, that precious, precious right to vote. And now we have early voting instead of election day. There's no pride in this anymore. Pride, election day is election day. So with that said, the early voting, as I said, was less than 12 per hour. Also, I've got many complaints from towns how chaotic the elections were at each polling places. That is not acceptable. That is not acceptable. There is not purity. There's not integrity in our elections right now. When you go there and there's craziness at each polls and people don't accept that. For people waiting in line when you're elders. I saw people there with walkers. There were people that came in the morning before they wanted to go to work. They went down. They couldn't vote. I know many, many people who left, went to work, didn't get back in time, had seminars in different states, couldn't vote. So when you think of the money and you think of the chaos that was done, to bring in new machines during a governor election is absurd. The fiascos at the polls were embarrassing. Our elections lack integrity and are not pure. Anyone who went to the polls could see it firsthand. Not only the machines were down, they didn't have enough provisional ballots and they didn't have enough emergency ballots. And I'm only speaking today because I got letters and phone calls from residents. Okay? That is why I'm bringing it forward. Then, also, when you think, as far as it's very stressful on these poll workers when things aren't running well. It's not fair to them. They're there long hours. There was an abusive situation. Police had to be called to polling places. What is going on here? We come a third world country. To confuse things matter at Carl Sandburg School. Information inputted into the computer was wrong. They had when you get your sample ballot, some of them said Carl Sandburg Middle School. Another one said Carl Sandburg High School. So when you went there, the computer didn't even pick you up. They had to isolate one machine just for one district. There wasn't enough polling machines at places, and even for taking the class to be a poll worker, they weren't trained properly because they weren't trained for the chaos that happened. There was no accountability. If the system goes down, you have no accountability. You also don't have a backup. Could you imagine that? Why am I held to a standard? If I'm doing a surgery and the lights go down and something happens to your pet, I'm held accountable. This is wrong. This is wrong that they don't have a backup. So I urge everyone to take voting seriously. That is what the veterans did for us. Take it seriously. Also, these drop boxes all over the county. Why do we have them now? They were there for COVID. Why do we still have them? People could go vote, okay? Vote for by mails should have a paper trail. It used to be, if you wanted to vote by mail, you had to write for it. This way, they sent in the application, and then you got the vote by mail. There was a paper trail, not being sent out. I've said before, the last election too, My girlfriend is still getting a ballot for her mother's that's been deceased over 20 years. How's that happen? So the bottom line is, when you do these vote by mails, there's no accountability also. So used to be, if you're a veteran, way of college, business trip, an invalid, someone was sick, you would get it. Now it's just random. It creates too much conflict. So to me, when you see spending $100 million for an early election, this is all about politicians and power. It has nothing to do with election. So it's disgraceful, and I just feel bad that we're at a level of a banana republic now. But with that said, I will still always think that we can do better and that we will do better. We just have to stand up and stay our course and speak up. And obviously a lot of people did, because I got many emails, many phone calls about it. And so I thank you for listening, and I thank once again every veteran that gave that you made the sacrifice, that you took away from your family, that you went and stood up for the freedoms in our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Merwin?
Yes. I too am appalled at Election Day. It was the most ridiculous thing I ever saw. The lines. And when you ask questions on who was responsible, you get the, this one, that one. Who was responsible for the number of machines and computers at the polling locations? Who was responsible for closing polling locations? They're the questions that I would like answered. And the one that's in charge of the elections in town is our clerk. So hopefully she would have those answers. Who is responsible for the amount of machines at the locations and the check-in iPads for each location?
The county provides a breakdown of it, and we review it to see if it's in compliance with what they have, and we agree to it. I apologize. The county provides a breakdown of their suggested amounts, and we review it to approve it to go forward. And it's usually based off of a percentage of voters who came out and their anticipated timelines.
Well, it was definitely overrun, and it definitely did not have the amount of machines that it should have had. We used to have like 6 machines at Memorial School for 3 districts. And they added 2 districts, and they were down to, 3 or 4 machines. And 3 machines. So I don't know who did that math. Maybe they didn't take their shoes off or something, and they couldn't get that high. But that was not the only location. The Civic Center was the same way. Schools were the same way, where you had some schools that only had 2 districts, had 2 machines. And you had, other locations that added districts and they took machines away. And I understand that it was the first time that they utilized this system, but, this was atrocious. Who's ever responsible should be fired. All right? And I don't care if that's the County Board of Elections. I don't care if that's the town clerk. Who was ever responsible for this should be fired, because it was terrible. And I hope it never happens again, because it was just utterly ridiculous. Now, getting to my, I may be speaking to you as the lame duck councilman, or I may be speaking to you as the re-elected council. I am behind by 56 votes. There's 64 votes that I know have to be counted at Memorial School. I don't know if there was any at the Civic Center or Cheesequake Village. But I want to thank everybody for coming out, no matter how they voted. I got swept up in the red wave. And what will be will be. If anybody thinks I'm going away, they're out of their mind. I'll still be here. And we'll go from there. And life goes on. And I'll have 7 days a week back to my life. So what will be will be. Thank you.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes, thank you. I kind of agree with both Anita and Merwin in a way. It was a disgrace. It was a disgrace what happened. I got called at 6:30 in the morning to get to my first district. I got there. There were hundreds of people in line. But the amazing thing, I have to thank the voters. 10 of them left because they had to go to work. 80 people stood there for 2 hours to wait. They had called the county. County never showed up. Our clerk showed up. She fixed it very quickly. I think that was an internet thing. Then she went over to another one of my districts. It was a wiring thing. It was all 3 different problems. And another place, they didn't put a 0 in the front of something. It was all different things happening. I don't know what happens, but she was there for everyone. So I have to thank her for at least my districts. I think it was great that how everybody came out and then came back. I had about 20 people I had a call to tell them when the polls were open to come back. But like Anita said, there were 10 to 12 people voting an hour. When we used to just push them out of there and you get like 100 people in an hour. It was crazy. I just want to thank everybody for voting, Democrat or Republican. I feel it's your duty. I would like to thank Ward 6 for reelecting me. And I do want to talk about the veterans a little bit. Everybody's got somebody in their family that's a veteran. And I agree with Eric that these veterans, he's right, they walk around, you can tell almost who they are. They have pride in them. They walk around with their shoulders up. And that's what this country's all about. I don't like some of the ways it's changing a little bit, but we must thank the veterans whenever we see them. They have been the best to us at all times, and that's the reason why we're even here anymore. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes, thank you. I too want to thank all the veterans. I think one of the problems that we have in our town, in our nation, is that they don't teach history. And when you don't teach the history, you don't learn about these guys that sacrificed for our freedoms that we can have an election day. So my heartfelt thanks to all the veterans. And I also want to thank the voters for coming out and voting. And I appreciate the vote of confidence to reelect me. Thank you very much. And I also make a mention of the election day. Another problem was where they didn't have enough machines. Those machines actually filled up with the paper ballots, and then they stopped. So people couldn't vote. And I mean, I was at Memorial School, and I have never seen it like that before. People were just lined up almost to outside. There was probably 300 people waiting. It was terrible. It's never been this bad. Hopefully they'll fix it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rizzoli is absent. Ms. Walker?
Yes, I want to touch on the pickleball for a second. I know we're going to shoot for the 2, they were approved in April for the 2 courts in Menino Park, and I know it can hold 6. So I was hoping that maybe potentially, since we're finishing to build out Menino Park like a lot this year, maybe we could potentially just get it over with and do the 6 courts and do it right, maybe, because probably they're not doing it until the spring. I know we have to wait till the budget, but I think it's something we should look into. And also, I would like to maybe have a committee, or if we could send a letter to the Board of Ed to ask them if they could fix their courts so that our courts could be returned to us. Because it's not just affecting the pickleball players. The tennis players are kicked off as well. So basically, sometimes the Old Bridge residents cannot use the courts at all. And it's not fair when they have their own courts over there that they don't fix, but yet they keep fixing the football field over and over and over. They have, their budget's like 3 times our budget, so whatever we need to do, maybe to send them a letter that they could potentially do that, and maybe we could possibly fix up these courts over here, like Art was saying about fixing them up so we could make more pickleball. It's something we should look into. Or maybe they could meet with you and we could discuss that, come up with some ideas in the future. And also, I'd like to thank our veterans from the bottom of my heart. My father was in World War II, was in the Navy, and then he was in the Merchant Marines for Korea, and he taught me to love America. And I really love our veterans because from my dad telling me all the time, and I just want to thank them.
Thank you. President Sohor?
Yes. First, I'd like to say thank you to Casey and Anna for a great coat drive. I stopped by, and I have to tell you, it was really a great success. And thank you so much for taking the time and putting in the effort to think about people that are in need, because it's a tough time right now. So thank you both very much. Also, as far as the pickleball, sometimes when residents go to the different governing bodies, they get a little more, people start to pay attention. So you may want to also attend the next Board of Education meeting and get up and speak as well, as far as having those tennis courts refurbished. You are also part of the community, and I think it would be good for the residents themselves to let them know that, this is something that we should be working on together to have some resolution so that everyone can enjoy the tennis, enjoy the courts, and have the time that everyone wants to spend, participating. I think it's a great sport, and I think it has really grown tremendously, and it's time for us to change along with the times, so to speak. But I think speaking to the Board of Ed may also give a little bit more of a push in the right direction. Veterans, naturally, my father, my late husband were both veterans, so I can't say enough about the wonderful commitment that they made to this country for all of us. They're just very, very special individuals. Also, I spoke to administration, and we were looking at perhaps not having a second meeting in November. There really is a very light agenda, and I was just wondering how the council felt, if I could get maybe a motion to think about, a motion for not having a meeting, the second one in November.
I make a motion.
Second.
Okay, so motion by Dr. Greenberg-Belli, a second by Councilman Pischetti.
Any discussion?
If you'd like to, you have something to add, sure.
I would like to see the motion made that there's one meeting a month. I mean, we went through, May, June, July, August. Now we're going to go into November. That's 5 out of the 12 months right away. We only had one, so why don't we just do one meeting a month? I mean,
No, wait.
Well, we could, at this point, I think it's something viable that we could look for January. Maybe we could discuss it, have the calendar prepared and discuss it and go forward with it. Because I know a lot of people feel the same way, that the one meeting a month, unless it was something like a month where you introduce the budget, have the budget hearing. Sometimes occasionally there's some things where you need a little more time, 2 meetings to get things accomplished. So Gabby, how about if we start to look at the calendar for next year?
I have started to look at the calendar to go through the dates to make sure we're not in compliance. Planning Board and Zoning Board have just adopted their meeting schedules, so we're trying to make sure that we don't have any conflicts as we do it, but we will have one prepared for review by the December meeting so that it can be addressed at our January reorg.
Okay.
There is a second meeting scheduled in December for December 28th, and Mr. Shaw might be able to speak to that. We weren't asking for consideration for that cancellation yet because of possible budget transfers, but Mr. Shaw, would you be able to speak to that more?
So I think, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think easy to cancel a meeting than create a special meetings if it's not created a calendar.
It's definitely easier to cancel meetings than to have a special meeting. The only reason is when you have a special meeting, you have to put, you have to know what your agenda is, and you can't deviate from the agenda once it's set. So, it's always easier to cancel a meeting than it is to schedule.
So
And the other issue is earlier in the year when we are adopting budget, we're adopting capital ordinances, and some of the projects, we like to have an opportunity to have two, meetings so we can get it done in 2 weeks rather than wait for the entire month. So I would love to have one meeting a month, that reduces burden on the staffing, but I think that in a practical terms, canceling is easier than creating a special meeting agenda and publishing that.
Listen, I agreed with Mary. I think that, the months that you think you need them, you do them, but you also take the backlash for canceling meetings. So it's a double-edged sword there. And, if you just do it, you do it. If you don't, you don't.
How do we know we're not going to have anything that needs to be voted on at the end of November? Can we wait?
For November or for December?
Which one are you talking about? That
So
was for November.
this was just for the November. The November 23rd was the motion that we had discussed with Council President Zohor to consider the November 23rd meeting, which would be 2 days before Thanksgiving. We did have a discussion with our department heads to make sure there weren't any outstanding items that would need to be addressed at that meeting. And all of our department heads did agree that there were no items that needed to be addressed at the November meeting, which is why we were proposing canceling it. When it came to the December 28th meeting in our discussions, we did not ask for that for consideration yet because we were trying to make sure that by the December 14th meeting, whether or not we had everything addressed or if we would have needed that meeting. So if we didn't need the meeting for December 28th, it was something we were hoping to consider at the December 14th meeting, but we wanted to leave it on the calendar in case there were any pending issues in the next few weeks that come up.
And yellow, I'm sorry.
Yes, John,
Just the only thing for the second December meeting, we may need to get an ordinance on for the first meeting in December, and you can't carry over ordinances from one year to the other. So right. It would be premature to look at December.
An ordinance that can't be carried over, we either keep the one in November and have one in December, or keep them both in December. We have to have. Yeah, it happened last year and it messes it up, and then, with voting. So what's everyone's preference?
Do you have a comment as well? So we could keep this meeting in November.
Yeah, that's what we'd have to do. Yeah.
Mary? Yes, I kind of like your idea. I would just schedule one meeting a month. We know well ahead of time, such as the budget and times that are coming up, that we can always schedule a meeting when it's necessary.
Well, as I said, she's going to get together the calendar for next year in December. And this way we'll have everyone here and hopefully, that night we can discuss it and have a little time to think about it. So we were just trying to decide now whether we do the November meeting and then have only one in December. But we have to wait, don't we have to wait?
I do have one other question.
Sure.
Is Reorganization Day going to be on January 1st this year?
Usually they only did that
we
during
did
the
it
mayor. I think it's usually the day after, if I'm,
When is
usually
it?
the second or the third, correct?
It has to be the first week of January.
I can double check the ordinance to see if this one is required, and then it would, with our meeting schedule that would be prepared for our next meeting, that would be the discussion, so we'd be able to pick the dates and advertise for them accordingly. My hope is that at our next council meeting to have the full calendar scheduled so we can put it up for discussion, to have it go that way, which would include the reorganization date to make sure it's in a compliance with our code book. But again, for tonight, what we were trying to propose was the cancellation of November. Mr. Roselli just cited he would suggest keeping both December meetings for preparation of the ordinance if necessary and canceling the November meeting if that is what the council wishes to do.
Well, one thing I would suggest, because we thought about, with the 23rd, there's not much on it. why don't, you said it's easy to cancel a meeting, why don't you leave all 3 on and then just cancel it if we don't have anything? But we should have 2 more meetings before the end of the year.
I think that's what you're voting on. Right now, there's not much, I guess, for the November meeting. I think the motion is whether or not to cancel the second November meeting.
So what I'm saying is, we need 2 meetings for an ordinance, because it can't carry over to the next year.
Right.
So why don't we leave all the meetings now, and you can just cancel if there's not anything. But we should have 2 out of those 3 before the year's up.
Right, and I think tonight is whether or not to cancel the second November meeting, which would leave 2 in December.
So then, what I'm saying is, so if we cancel the November meeting, we're definitely having the 2 December meetings.
So
I don't
understand
think-
what you're saying.
So
What I'm
I do.
saying is, you don't know how things are going to play out. So I would rather keep the 23rd instead of the Christmas one. If a lot of people travel during Christmas, most people are home. It's usually, a home, thing.
So I understand what you're saying. So the reason we're saying the November 23rd is because we've already discussed it, and the preparation for it would not be ready at that point. That was part of the discussion. So the earliest we would have the ordinance for preparation would be the first meeting in December. So if we have the ordinance to move forward, it would be on the first meeting in December, so we would require the second meeting in December to progress with it.
And if we have to,
Councilwoman, I don't believe we can even do the ordinance in December, we'll not be able to. That's what I think.
These are other ordinances. I got ordinances coming out the wazoo. Lots of ordinances.
So, but what I'm saying to you is, all right, the December meetings are, we know the dates. If anything, maybe we can change a meeting, just if to do the date of it. But we need 2 meetings before the year's up.
I would certainly keep 2 scheduled,
Okay,
for sure.
thank you.
But since the thing isn't being introduced until December 13th, 14th, it doesn't matter what we do with November.
That would be true. If it's introduced on the 14th, there's enough time to adopt it the second
Okay.
December meeting. Again, and if it doesn't come to fruition that, the ordinance is needed, and then there's nothing else for the December meeting, then you can cancel the December 28th meeting at that time. But I think, again, what was discussed is that from the department head's perspective, I guess administration, there is no need for a second November meeting. Is that correct?
So there was a motion on the floor by Dr. Greenberg-Belly and a second by Mr. Piscitty to cancel the second November meeting. Councilman Merwin had asked a question for discussion. So is everyone accepting continuing the motion for roll call? Okay, great, thanks. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg-Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy? Yes. Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli is absent. Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Zohor? We have 8 ayes. So the next meeting will be December 14th.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, I'll ask for a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Pescetti, second by Mrs. Walker.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg-Belli? Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy? Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?